Don't risk it. Don't do it. At times like this, when the stock market keeps going up and up and up, it can be easy to let your guard down at exactly the wrong time. So, in today's video, I want to share with you three important statistics that are screaming caution, caution, caution. If you're old enough to remember the words of Lost in Space, caution, Will Robinson, caution, Will Robinson. And it's not just me that feels these three metrics are super important. It's also Warren Buffett. So let's jump in and talk about this. At a Berkshire Hathaway annual conference a few years ago, Warren Buffett was asked about two valuation measures. The first one, and we're going to talk about each of these, is market cap to GDP, which Warren Buffett himself once heralded as probably the best single measure of where valuations stand at any moment. And the second one he was asked about at this annual conference was what's called the cyclically adjusted price to earnings ratio, made famous by Nobel Prize winner Robert Shiller. Now, stick with me. This stuff sounds complicated. It's not going to be complicated. But importantly, this is what Warren Buffett said in his answer. The most important thing is I need to lay the foundation so it will make sense. So stick with me, and I'm going to unblur that phrase. But first, let's talk about these measures. They're not complicated, and it's important that you know what they are. The first one, this is Robert Shiller. He's a professor at Yale. He also won the Nobel Memorial Prize in economics. And he has what he calls a 10-year CAPE ratio. Cyclically adjusted price to earnings is just a fancy way of saying, let's look at some average earnings for companies and let's see how much people are willing to pay for $1 of earnings. And because earnings bounce up and down every quarter for a company, Professor Schiller said, let's look at the last 10 years to get an average of that. And so if the CAPE ratio, if the CAPE ratio was 20, that means people are willing to pay $20 for $1 of earnings. So hopefully that makes sense. But importantly, here's what the chart looks like. And you can see here that we're two standard deviations above what the normal is. And so it means we're really high. Now, does that mean we're overvalued? I would argue it doesn't necessarily mean we're overvalued, but it sure does merit caution. And I want to thank Current Market Valuations. They update this every quarter. You can find it for free just by going to currentmarketvaluation.com. They put on a category overvalued. I would just say it's two standard deviations above the norm, and you can see where it's at towards the end of the right-hand corner. Now, what about this other thing called the Buffett indicator, which Warren Buffett is credited for coming up with, and there was a time he said it was the most important single indicator. He now says the most important single indicator is something else. We'll get to that. But this is just simply the value of the total U.S. stock market divided by the annualized gross domestic product, in this case for the United States, but for any country. And according to Current Market Valuations, these are the numbers, and you can see it's about 217%. And Warren has, and I'm paraphrasing here, Warren has said in the past, anytime it gets above 200, you're playing with fire. So let's be careful here. And let's go back to Current Market Valuation and see where we're at. And unfortunately, we are at an all-time high on this Buffett indicator, the U.S. stock market value to GDP. Now, here's what Warren said. Every number has some degree of meaning. So he was asked about these two measures, the Warren Buffett indicator and then the CAPE ratio, and his answer was every number has some degree of meaning. It means more sometimes than others, and both of the things that you mentioned get bandied around, both of those indicators. It's not that they're unimportant. They can be very important. I'm continuing to quote Buffett. Sometimes they can be almost totally unimportant. That, frankly, I don't understand that, but that's Warren's quote. It's just not quite as simple as having 1 or 2 formulas and then saying the market's overvalued. I agree, it's not that simple, but for you and I, what do we use, And we're about to get to what Warren thinks is the most important thing, and, you know, so Warren's got one thing that he thinks is most important. As a retired financial advisor myself, I have 5 or 6 things that I think are most important, and one of the most important things is taking care of your health and choosing wisely when it comes to Medicare, because our healthcare costs can be a huge factor that most people underestimate in retirement. In fact, Fidelity tells us the average 65-year-old is looking at $165,000 in costs from the time they're 65 and on Medicare until the time they pass away, and that's a lot of money. And importantly, that does not include long-term care expenses. It does include the cost of Medicare, the co-pays for Medicare, and then things that Medicare doesn't cover. So choosing wisely with our Medicare is really important. And every year there's an open enrollment period. This year it runs October 15th to December 7th. And it's super important that you do not just assume that last year's plan is the right plan for you for the coming year. Take advantage of this Medicare open enrollment period. And that's why I'm proud to partner with today's video sponsor, Chapter. They are a Medicare advisor that's always free to you to use. There's no reason not to use a Medicare advisor because we don't have to pay for them. They're free for the consumer. And I agreed specifically to partner with Chapter for 3 reasons. The first one is they're free for us to use, so I think that's important. Number 2 is their average their average client saves $1,100 a year. That's almost $100 a month. And number 3, which to me is the most important, is if you call them up, if you reach out to them at the link below, and they feel that the plan that you're on is the best match for what you're looking for, they are going to tell you that. And that's what we all want. We want experts that are bringing their expertise to help us. And I believe that is Chapter. And you can reach Chapter down here. They're about to get busy. All Medicare advisors are. So a pro tip is to reach out at the phone number that you see as well to get your plan, to get your meeting scheduled as soon as possible. And thank you, Chapter, for sponsoring this video. Okay, let's keep going. So let's go back to Warren Buffett. What does he think is the single most important thing? And here's what he says: the most important thing is future interest rates. And I know that surprises you, but that's an indicator of the health of the economy. It's kind of the single litmus test. Like I think my doctor, if he could pick one thing to check on me physically, I don't know, I'm not a physician, but I think he would say my blood pressure, right? It's kind of an indicator of my overall health. And the indicator of overall health for an economy can be, and Warren Buffett would say, is future interest rates. And this is what the yield curve looks like now. And what you're looking at is the interest rates are on the left-hand side. This is for U.S. government bonds. And it's for various duration for various periods of time. So we start on the left with 1-month treasuries. They're basically a bond, but they're called treasuries. And then you can see it drops. It's at its lowest point at 3 years, and then it starts to shoot back up to 10 years and 30 years. So this is what our current interest rates look like. And Warren Buffett would want to know what that 30-year with the right-hand side of that curve looks like, what the interest rates are there. What that is telling me, and I'm not an economist, but that is not flashing a warning sign to me, but the other 2 measures, frankly, are. So importantly, what do we do? What do we do with this information? Just like I said, this is not flashing a warning to me, the interest rates, but maybe it is to Warren Buffett. So, and I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. So for the average person and for me, what do? We come up with a long-term asset allocation and we stick with it. And the second thing is we have a plan, a financial plan, a retirement plan, because without that, we're just guessing. And we're likely either sacrificing unnecessarily. So in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, maybe we're saving more than we need to. And in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe we could be spending more money. And I suspect most of us are sacrificing unnecessarily. And the other side of it is we might be unknowingly putting our future financial security at risk if we don't have a plan. So one of those two things is likely happening. But with the financial plan, you have knowledge and you have clarity, and I would argue you have power so that you can comfortably spend the money that you want to spend and not suffer from either of these. Do yourself a favor, have a financial plan, work with a fiduciary financial advisor, or if you want to do it yourself, for goodness sakes, don't build it in Google Sheets or Excel. Why? It takes too much time. It's easy to make a mistake. There's really powerful, easy to use software that's affordable. The software I like is called Bolden. It used to be called New Retirement. I am an affiliate, so if you use this link, you'll be supporting the channel. Thank you. And if you like this video, another really important decision, maybe the most important decision for people 50 and 60, is when we decide to retire. And that's why I made this video here. Why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.